move on to Scotland, David, and Fornethy.
Yes, so this article is launched today on UK Columns, on ukcolumn.org, and this represents a major step forward in the Fornethy story, linking the abuse at Fornethy to the political, legal and judicial establishment in Scotland. It's called Fornethy, the Fairbairn Connections. This next slide here describes how we were showing a series of photographs of people who we thought might be relevant to the abuse that took place there to the Fornethy girls. And one of them, we report, turning over the next photograph, her reaction was an uncontrollable physical recoil, a moment of horror and revulsion too strong to be restrained. She immediately broke down. It was not exactly tears. The reaction was beyond tears. She said nothing. She needed to say nothing. Her response was more powerful than words. The Fornethy girl did not know who the man was. She had no name, no knowledge of him, except for the terror his image caused her. The man in the photograph was former MP Sir Nicholas Fairbairn. And when we conclude on this, we look at the connections that we've made, and we say that it's become all the more vital for the full truth about Fornethy to be revealed, so the survivors may have peace and the public may know what was done to their neighbours and in their name. This disclosure must include the role of Sir Nicholas Hardwick Fairbairn QC, Robert Henderson QC, and the rest of the legal judicial network. Police Scotland, the Crown Office, and those in possession of the relevant facts owe it to the Fornethy girls to reveal what they know. There's no doubt that the true horrors of the Fornethy story are just emerging, and this time there must be no magic circle, suppression of the facts. So we're looking forward very much to see if we get comment and support for that article from those in power and authority in Scotland. We will keep you advised.
Okay, and then moving on to Glasgow.
Yes, so it's Glasgow City Council that's dealing with Fornethy, or rather not dealing with Fornethy. So we're looking at a little bit of what's happening in Glasgow. So the Daily Record here report the Scots Hell Hotel tycoons received 25 million whilst 40 homeless residents died. So this is hotel owners Ikram Hussain and Adam Hussain. They own 2 hotel groups. They received £25 million of taxpayers' money, and there was a whole series of deaths in the hotels. Now, speaking to one of the mothers of the deceased, Linda, she said she understands many problems have been caused by chronic shortage of rental properties in Scotland. She said, I hope the First Minister can move towards giving guidance to all Scottish councils about minimum levels of care to be applied as a right to all homeless people who are accommodated in temporary accommodation. I don't want to see hotels shut down, but I want to see an end to the drug dens. She continued, I'm appalled but not surprised at the amount of money that these hotel owners are collecting and the way the council just kept the tap going without taking responsibility for people's welfare. My son was not a drug addict when he entered the Queen's Park Hotel, but he was surrounded by drug dealing and drug taking when he was at a low ebb. Now, the issue here is the state is paying to put people into accommodation, which are essentially drug dens. They're paying their accommodation. They're paying the money for subsistence, which will fund the drug habit. Right? So they're putting them into this situation, and the state's saying, well, look, we put a roof over your head, we gave you money for food, we've looked after you, we've done everything we needed to. And actually what they're doing is killing them. Right? They're putting them into a situation which is so toxic that people are dying. There is a reason why the drug death rate in Scotland's 3.5 times higher than England, and it's nothing to do with general wealth of society, which is very similar. And by some measures, it's slightly richer in Scotland if you don't take into account taxation. Right? This shows just the level of callous disregard that's been shown to human beings here. Now, next question, what is Glasgow City Council good at? Well, it's very good at generating fines for driving in bus filter lanes. So they're currently fining drivers in Glasgow £66,000 a week for driving in bus filter lanes, 5th highest in the UK. So they're good at something. They're good at exploiting their own population for cash. And another little clip here, and an example of Glasgow City Council. This is a statement from the leader of Glasgow City Council, Susan Aitken, on Glasgow United's use of council-owned Greenfield Football Centre. Now, we've covered this story before. David Goodwillie is a footballer. She writes, David Goodwillie has been found in court to be a rapist. Now, that's a bit deceptive. We'll come to that in a moment. However, in more than 12 years, he's never once shown any sign of contrition or remorse. Any club that signs him is making a very clear statement about its attitude to the safety of women and girls, both in sport and its community. How would it would be an outrageous decision, wholly at odds with how community facilities like Greenfield should be run. I've asked officers to look at the council's agreement with Glasgow United, make it clear that I'm ready for the city to walk away. So they're basically saying, if you sign this guy, you're going to lose your ground. Now, this is something that's happened multiple times. Clyde essentially lost their football ground because they had him playing for them. Now, the background is he was charged with rape. The charges were dropped. There was insufficient evidence. There was later a civil trial, which he lost. There was a finding against him by the civil standard of proof. He was bankrupted by that. This was all happened 12 years ago. He's tried to rebuild his life. He's now married. He's got children. He's trying to conduct his career. And he's being hounded by the political great and good in Scotland and not allowed any form of a life. And it just looks a bit, well, wrong. At what point has he served has he discharged this debt? If he'd been convicted of rape, he would have been long ago out having served his time and served his debt to society. But in this hinterland, there seems to be no end to it. Now, there is an interview. He's been interviewed online about the whole thing, and those who wish to hear his side of the story can do so there. We then finish up this piece with Fornethy Residential School. We've raised issue after issue to do with Glasgow City Council's responsibility to the Fornethy girls. They are disinterested in helping the Fornethy girls. They're not engaging with them. They're not engaging with us. We pointed out that when they sold Fornethy, they did so unlawfully and suggested they should buy it back and do what the legal agreement says they should have done, which is knock it flat. They're ignoring this. They're not standing up for the Fornethy girls. They're standing up against David Goodwillie on the grounds we're looking after girls and young women. But when they are responsible for girls and young women. They don't care.
Okay, thank you, David. Thank you for that.